Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome to episode 49 of the Genesys Cloud Community's Q&A show, the show where we answer your pressing questions in the Genesys Cloud online community. My name is Matt Lawson. I'm your online community manager, and today we've got a loaded episode for you. First of all, we're going to be talking about a hotly requested new feature called co-browsing. You'll get a really in-depth demo over how it works, what it does, and great thing is it's available, so you can go ahead and get started using it. After that, we're going to have some fun because Nicole has the results of a contest that we did in the Genesys Cloud community, or I'm sorry, the Genesys Casual community. And then we're going to hang out with some of our friends from Pro Services, the Above Average Joes, to answer what else other than your questions in the community. Lot to do. I can't wait to get started. So let's go ahead and hop right in and meet Chad, who's going to talk about co-browse. Chad, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Hey, a couple of cool milestones. First of all, you're our first guest of the 2023 season, which is really fun. And you're guest on the 49th episode. So just one shy of the big 5-0 for this
All right.
show. I know. Pretty cool. Real quick, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do at Genesys?
Yeah, so my name's Chad Hansen. I'm a product manager here in our digital division. I've been with Genesys for a little over 3 years, and I primarily work with web messaging and some of our messenger apps that we're building on top of that channel. So my manager, Angelo Chiquito, he's been on the Q&A show in the past. I work very closely with him on all things web messaging. But today in particular, I'm here to talk about co-browse, which we've recently released for web messaging.
Yeah, cool. And the funny thing about co-browse, I don't know if you saw it, we just did a top 10 list of features that came out last year and got the highest number of votes in the Ideas Lab. And co-browse is on the list. So if anybody else is curious what made it or what place it came in, go check out that video. I can't wait to learn more about co-browsing. It's really funny. After we released that top 10 video, somebody wrote in on the video and asked for more information about co-browsing. So this episode could not be better timed. So what do you think? Should we head into the demo?
Perfect. Yeah, that works for me. All right. So first, I'd like to start off with just a little bit of background on what co-browse is for those of you who might not be familiar. So co-browse is really just short for collaborative browsing. And all that really means is that someone is on a website and someone else is watching what they're doing on that website. So in this case, it's typically going to be a customer working with an agent. Genesys does have a bit of history with co-browse. So in 2017, we released co-browse for web chat and for voice with Genesys Cloud. And as the years went on, we started to transition away from web chat and into web messaging. We knew we wanted to bring co-browse to that channel as well. So over the years, there were a number of performance improvements and reliability, stability improvements that we wanted to make, as well as just general UX modernization. So we've worked a lot of those improvements into a brand new co-browse service, and that's what's actually used by web messaging. So to jump right into the demo, on my left side of my screen, I have the customer's view. So in this example, they're out on genesys.com. And on the right side, I have my agent desktop view. So I'll make sure my agent is on queue, and I will launch Messenger and send in a message. And I can see there's a bot reply that comes to that customer automatically before it hands off to an agent. But now the interaction has come into my agent. So the agent, the customer, they're doing some back and forth, trying to understand what the problem is, what friction point the customer's hitting out on that website. And in talking, the agent realizes, okay, it would be really helpful if I could see your screen and see exactly what you're going through, the issue you're encountering. So up here as part of the agent desktop, on the toolbar, the agent has this icon to start a co-browse. So if they have co-browsing permissions, they'll see this icon. And when they click start co-browse, you can see this sends a co-browsing share request to the end customer. So they have the accept and decline options. And then there's also this expiration timer. They have 60 seconds that they need to respond within. But in this case, we want our customer to accept that request. So you can see as they accept it, the customer side of the conversation, or the customer side of the browser, they get this control panel or toolbar up in the upper right of their screen. And this just lets them know that they're actively sharing their screen with an agent. And based on the color of my messenger, which is a little dark blue, so it's a little bit hard to see here, you can see there's a border around their window, just letting them know that this is what's being shared. And one thing to call out is that with co-browse, only the current browser tab or browser window is being shared with the agent. It is a little bit different than kind of the industry term of screen sharing, which is where another application could be shared, a file could be shared, that sort of thing. So co-browsing only applies to the current browser tab that the customer is on. So you'll notice whenever they accepted that co-browse proposal, the agent now has their co-browse panel updated so they can see what the customer sees. And as the customer scrolls down the page, the agent's viewport follows along. And you'll notice here, as I'm doing this side by side, with my cursor on the customer's page moving around, the agent can see that cursor positioning. And then if I move my cursor over to the agent's view, the customer can also see the agent's cursor and where that's positioned. There's also the ability to click to highlight. So if the agent clicks somewhere, it will flash that element in red on the customer side just to draw focus or draw attention to that area. And then similarly, the customer can click around on the page and that click to highlight works in the same way. So you'll see here on the right side that the agent can only view what is currently shown on the customer's view. So the agent cannot just scroll freely up and down the page. They can only see what the customer is currently seeing. And if a customer navigates to another page, you'll see their side of the view updates, and then also the agent side follows that navigation event as well. And you can see the URL here update as the customer navigates around the website. One other thing I'll mention is that both the agent and the customer have the ability to draw or annotate on the page. So for instance, the agent, they'll click this draw icon and maybe they want to highlight something or draw a circle around something. And those drawings disappear within a few seconds, but the customer can also do the same kind of drawing. The agent can also request control of the customer screen. So as I click this request control button on the agent side, notice what happens to this control panel for the customer. You'll see that the screen sharing notification actually updates to this remote control request. So this is letting the customer decide if they want the agent to have control over their screen. So in the case the customer accepts, the agent can now scroll freely and the customer side follows along. They still have the same click to highlight capabilities, the drawing capabilities, navigation events, all of those things remain. And at any time, the customer can actually revoke control or just outright end the session also. So if I take the agent's window and I go into full screen mode, you'll see here that the viewer pane still only reflects the view or the resolution of the customer's browser. So they don't get this full screen just since I'm doing this side by side here. But you'll see that the conversation and the co-browsing session exist in parallel. So they can still communicate through the messaging conversation while they follow along in the co-browse. With co-browsing, you know, a lot of the use cases that our customers are using this for today, we see a lot of customers using this for help with complex forms. So you could think something like a bank using this for a mortgage application or a loan application. Also, with telehealth on the rise, telemedicine, there's a lot of doctors' forms, things of that nature that are being used with co-browse. And then also even just the more common e-commerce retail use cases, when customers are potentially hitting issues with adding items to their cart or seeing an error on the screen, they can reach out to an agent and that agent can help them try to overcome that friction point.
Cool. One question I had, because obviously you talked about how the co-browsing session is limited to the tab that the conversation is happening on. If you do need to switch tabs, is that possible? Or do you just have to enter a new URL? How does that work?
So Messenger does support up to 3 tabs at any given time for the conversation. However, the co-browse session would only be able to remain in that one tab that it was started in. So if they did need to switch to another tab for some reason, they could always end the session and then have the agent repropose the session on the other tab.
But to do that, you would still have to have this chat option on that tab, or how does it work?
Yes. So Messenger follows around the customer from page to page. And so this won't work because I'm running Messenger locally right now on Genesys.com. So
Right.
it's just my machine. But if I were to open another tab on that website, Messenger would also appear there. And so the conversation stays synchronized to a maximum of 3 tabs.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Thanks so much, Chad, for that overview. It was really cool for me to see it because in the top 10 video, we only got to see like a really quick 30-second demo or so. Really neat to see more detail on co-browse and understand how it can be used. Before recording this session, we did head into the Genesys Cloud community and post to let our audience know that you and I would be talking. And one of our members, Robert Wakefield Carl. Hey, Robert, how are you, bud? He did have a few questions that he wanted me to throw your way.
Hey, cool. Robert, very familiar. Good to see you again.
The first question is, does co-browse allow for desktop application sharing?
So co-browse does not. So this gets into that difference between kind of the industry standard terms of co-browse versus screen sharing. So right now, co-browse is limited to just the browser sharing. However, down the road, we're exploring some ideas of how we can capture that full screen share. So switching between different applications, maybe sharing a file or something on the desktop. So not supported today, something we're looking at for the future, separately handled from co-browse.
Okay, perfect. He also wanted to know, does it work on iOS and Android?
So a little bit yes and a little bit no. So if I am on my iPhone or if I am on my Android phone and I'm using the browser, such as Chrome or Safari, then yes. So web messaging, co-browse, those are supported with web and mobile web. However, right now, co-browse does not work in our native mobile SDK, which the use case there is having Messenger embedded in a dedicated iOS or Android app. So that native mobile app pattern framework doesn't support co-browse today. However, that's something we're looking at for down the road.
Okay, perfect. Will this work in FedRAMP?
So right now, no. However, later this year, the expectation is that yes, it will. And there's a little bit of background on why that is. In order to get FedRAMP certification, your product has to go through a long audit process. And unfortunately, co-browse for web messaging was just not available at the time we went through that initial FedRAMP offer audit. However, for the next audit that's scheduled, we do plan to be in that one.
Okay. Just a few more questions from Robert. Do you have an applet/script for voice-only co-browse?
So this is a great question. Co-browse with voice has been supported for a while. However, it's built on that legacy co-browse service that supports web chat and voice. So with the new co-browse service that we've just recently built and just released for web messaging, we don't have voice support yet, but we're working on it. That's in development right now, and we're expecting that to become available around Q2 or around mid-year sometime, so late Q2. Right now, no co-browse for voice support. However, once that development's complete, we will support that use case through the messenger. So what would happen is the deployment steps would be very similar still as deploying messenger to your website today. However, in your messenger configuration, there would just be options for whether you want to support the use case or not, the voice use case or not.
Cool. Just 2 more questions here. Will there be a reporting filter and column for co-browse sessions?
So there is not a recording filter today. However, there is an analytics filter. So if I am a supervisor in my contact center, and I'm looking through the list of today's interactions or yesterday's interactions, and I'm filtering on voice interactions or web messaging interactions or WhatsApp interactions, I also have the ability to filter on co-browse interactions as well.
Okay, gotcha. And I love this last question because it's something I end up having to do a lot. Can there be an option to start screen recording if a co-browse session starts or stops?
So we don't, so the way screen recordings are handled today are through policies in Genesys Cloud, and we don't have a policy configuration option today to say, hey, as soon as a co-browse starts, please start recording it. We don't have that today. That's something we're looking at for the future. However, I will say that if you have a policy configured to, under some circumstances, start recording the agent desktop, it will pick up the co-browse session that's happening on that agent desktop.
Gotcha. All right, excellent. Great news, everybody. If you have questions about co-browse, this is not the last chance that we will be hearing from Chad. To my knowledge, we're actually going to be doing an Ask Me Anything event in the Genesys Cloud community. We're targeting at doing that in about 2 weeks from the release of this video. So look for that sometime after the 22nd of February, sometime in like that last week of February, I think is when we're going to try to do it. But if after checking this out, after playing with co-browse yourself, if you do have any questions, swing by the community. Chad will be there to answer your questions, and we'll definitely have an event posted so that you know when you can connect with him. Chad, man, pleasure to meet you. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, and I'm looking forward to the AMA, looking forward to hearing all the questions from it.
All right, awesome. Thanks again, Chad, for that wonderful demo. Now let's go ahead and hop over to meet our friend Nicole, who's going to share the results of a rhyme contest that we did in the Genesys Casual community. Nicole, take it away.
Hey, and thanks, Matt. After releasing our 2022 holiday special, where Genius, the community mascot, learns about Genesys resources with the help of some friends and the power of a few alliterative expressions, we decided to have a contest where community members from all around the globe could submit rhymes of their own for a chance to win a prize. And submissions came in from North America to India. Because the contest was open to Genesys employees, including the community staff, we knew that we would need an unprompted actor to present the finalist submissions, which were completely anonymous, to an unbiased panel of judges. Here's what unfolded. Welcome Tracy Vickers from the WEM community, Mari Yamaguchi from the Beta community, and Anthony Romero from the DX community. Listen up, judges. Here's Adrian with our first submission.
Genesys might have many perks, but here I am prepping for my next certs, GCP-GC or GCP-GCX and GCS-GC, which is complex. Now that I have a subscription to Beyond, I might be the next Bond, James Bond. Thank God for these communities that share useful knowledge, like a bunch of experts run an online college. Now I won't try to rap no more, or Matt might say, is this what you want a prize for?
So Tracy, so as a judge, tell me what you thought about submission number one.
Number one, really cool. Not sure what all of the acronyms and the letters and the abbreviations meant, but for the guy that actually read it out, it was amazing to be able to do that without falling over, and I loved the end of it, so really cool.
Thank you so much, Tracy, for your thoughts on number one. We're going to move on to submission number two. Take it away, Adrian.
I like federated search, and I cannot lie. Single site searches can't deny. Though when my eyes see results from many sites, it's always fun to pick the right one. Yum! I guess I'm gonna check them all. It's better than shopping in a mall. Come on, it's gonna be a ball. Oh no! I think I just chortled. I can save my favorite portals. This site's too good to be true, and it's free for me and you. Community Beyond and GCAP, no need for a high-level recap. Just remember this rap.
Well, first off, A+. Man, I'm a sucker for 90s novelty rap, I guess, to steal that line from Friends, but the way that song was adapted to that was perfect. So, I mean, A+ for creativity on that one.
Thank you for taking a listen. We've got number three coming right up.
Oh, Genesys, my Genesys, you supply my CCAAS needs. My business loves our Genesys, a solution that is so complete. It routes my calls and emails too. It handles chats and bots to boot. Oh, Genesys, my Genesys, you make my agent so content. Thank you.
Well, that just makes you feel all nice and warm and fuzzy for the holiday season, doesn't it? Very well done. I actually enjoyed that one as well too. Very familiar tune, though. I enjoyed that one.
Our last submission, last but not least, number 4.
Genesys has always got your back for products, resources, and answers you lack. With metrics, bots, and answers you seek, Genesys makes your agent game so on fleek. From GCAP points to a fab beyond course. If you don't participate, you'll feel deep remorse. Our community prizes are so wicked, boss. If you don't participate, it's your total loss. Genesys has it all. I'm not scared to admit it's a real no-brainer why the peeps commit. Word.
Okay, so Tracy, number 4, what are your thoughts?
Okay, number 4, I did love the rhyme. I like the way they sort of fit in as much as they possibly could. I don't know whether it seemed shorter or not, I don't know, but it was really funny. I may not look like I was laughing at it as much until the very end.
Wow, that was a close race, but the judges weighed in with their favorites.
So my vote will definitely be for number 2.
My vote will go for entry number 3.
My vote has to go for number 2 by far.
That makes our winner. Number 2, GKN Got Wrapped, written by the community's own Matt Lawson. Congrats, Matt.
Wow. First of all, thank you. This is a real honor. I have not won a poetry contest since I was in college. Didn't know if I'd ever win one again, so I'm kind of floored that this happened. Thank you so much for everybody that participated. Keep in mind, we want all of you to participate in stuff like this. You can join us in the Genesys Casual community. That's where we post all of our contests. And we're going to do a much better job moving forward of making sure those contests are also available in the GCAP Center. If you're not familiar with GCAP, that's the Genesys Customer Advocacy Program. Go ahead and join it if you want to. You can get rewarded for the things that you're already doing and loving with Genesys. Again, thank you all so much for the prize. Did not see that coming. Thank you to the judges. Thank you to everybody who competed. I will be using the prize that I won to make a donation to charity. Let's get back into action and join our friends, the above average Joes, who are about to answer some of your questions from the community. And it's fair to say that I think we'll all be winners. Let's go ahead and join them in the middle of the action.
When the online community has questions and no one else can help, there's one group who can answer the call. They're pro services ready for hire. The Above Average Joes. Meet George Canal, an expert with Genesys for over 23 years. Meet Patrick Johnson, Senior Principal Pro Services Consultant.
Today they're answering your questions.
Well, look what the cat drug in. George, Patrick, welcome to the show, guys. How are you?
Doing well, Matt. Good to see you again.
Yeah, doing well.
For those of you who may be new to this segment, we are going to do one of my favorite segments. It's called Stump the Expert. We're here to give those unanswered questions our best quick response to try to point these people in the right direction. Now, for the audience, these questions typically are asked to our experts without any prep whatsoever involved, but we have a little bit of a cheat for this first question because George was looking at it ahead of time and he wanted to answer it because he does have an answer that will be helpful, but this is the only one he sent me ahead of time. It comes to us from Kyle. Kyle writes, anyone know if this is doable in Genesys? Today, part of my business uses a tool called EngageWare, aka Time Trade, in their technical support area. It's used in 2 purposes. Number 1, customers with premium plans can to a link and schedule a callback. And 2, for our very small, lower volume product teams. If level 1 cannot resolve it, they to a link and schedule a callback on the customer's behalf. What is done on the back end is we reserve, for example, 3 1-hour slots from 9 to 14, or I guess that would be 2 p.m., or 2 30-minute slots to be chosen from. When the customer is called back, it's just an outbound call, not integrated with workforce management, resourcing, or rolled up reporting. Ideally, we'd like it to use the Genesys callback feature. I'm curious if anyone is doing something similarly with Genesys today or knows a third party that could do this a little bit better. Kyle, I think we have some good news for you because George picked this question, so I think he's going to have a suggestion. George, what do you think?
First off, I want to point to our app foundry because it sounded like perhaps you may not know about the app foundry that's out here. So appfoundry.genesys.com is a great place to look for solutions such as something to do with callbacks. So I already knew of one that was out there, but I just wanted to go through this little walkthrough where you come to App Foundry and you have a question. Okay, I'll just type in callback, hit enter, and it comes up with a list of different things that people have as offerings. So we have different companies that produce their own value add pieces of code to use with Genesys Cloud. And one of the ones that I want to point out here, I mean, there are several to look at and choose from, is this Genesys built automate callbacks using outbound campaigns option. So we have what we call our blueprint here, and it's just something that Genesys Professional Services actually created a while back. It is a blueprint in that it gives you all the guidance on how to set it up. But the main concept is that we're using the outbound dialing capabilities of Genesys Cloud to actually schedule callbacks that are going to be using that outbound system to place the call. It's not the standard callbacks where you call into the IVR and you schedule a callback or an agent clicks schedule callback in their client, but this one uses our outbound dialing feature instead. And what you basically do, somebody either calls in or an agent clicks a button, whatever. It could be on the website where somebody goes to our website, like was being mentioned in that question, and clicks on a button to say, hey, I've got this time frame of availability. So they could put in the time they're available or choose from a list of times that are available, as was mentioned in the question. Click on that link, put in their phone number, their contact info. And then what actually gets done is an entry gets written into the contact list for an always running outbound dialing campaign. And then at the appointed time, the dialing campaign places that call and connects it up with an agent, is the essence of it. And that's pretty much what was being asked for there, being able to use the Genesys Cloud reporting. So you got all the reporting on it. It's handled by our system. If the person does not answer, you can actually have dialer retry every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. It's got all the standard outbound dialer features available in it. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Matt, wait.
What?
We're doing Stump the Expert, right?
Stump the Expert is now officially starting, yes.
Somebody has to have his hat.
Oh my gosh.
Uh-oh, I'm scared.
I just happened to be on a family trip to California recently.
Oh, an In-N-Out burger hat. All right.
I went to In-N-Out. So I got my hat on for this next question. I'll see if I can, channel the In-N-Out force here.
Yeah, we'll bring that animal style to this next question. It's about evaluation assistance. It's from Nicholas, who wants to know, or who says, I am liking the newest update to QA. Thanks, Nicholas. And have some questions regarding evaluation assistance. I would like to set a policy to pull all calls from a specific queue and assign an evaluation to them that uses evaluation assistance. We have some black and white things that need to be mentioned on every call. Using the assistance, we could automate these evaluations and it would not require any intervention. Questions are, is there a way to automatically submit these evaluations without manually going into each one? Also, is there a way to default that they are never released to the agents?
And with the evaluation assistance, I'm not even positive that it's something I can add in from this side here. But normally what I would do when I'm trying to figure things out, because it mentions evaluation assistance over here, and it gives you some questions that you would be able to guide the person into looking at. So I would go into this area. It has evaluation assistance off to the right here. Obviously, I don't have any questions configured to help guide the person through the evaluation. But the main thing I want to point out is that down here in the bottom left, there's a help icon. And when all else is lost, you go to the help. And that should bring up context sensitive help for what you're looking at. And within this would hopefully have a link to something to do with evaluation assistance. Well, unfortunately here, don't really have a whole lot. But then if you don't find it immediately, you can click the question mark or the spike magnifying glass up here and push that in. Pull from your list of assigned evaluations, which is basically what we're talking about there is, okay, how do you force these to be assigned to somebody? See the evaluation assistance condition, create and publish an evaluation form. So there should be help in here that tells you how to create it, how to assign evaluation assistance and go from there. You add conditions, which are made up of topics, the phrases that indicate your business level intent. Sounds like, yes, you can add evaluation assistance to a specific form question. That would be part of the forms that you assign based upon who you want to assign them to. So let me go back to my evaluation forms. I've got my sales form here that's already set up with a bunch of different questions. For that, you have to go into policies and say, okay, I want to assign that form to somebody. You mentioned specific queue. I have to set up my matching criteria. Is it inbound or outbound conversations or both? Is it specific users within the queue or is it just that specific queue? You would not have the wrap-up code. It would just be the queue. And then over on the evaluation site itself, you assign which evaluation goes to those users. Here's my use evaluation form. You say who it gets sent to, which specific evaluators if you want. Each evaluation form already has those evaluation assistance questions assigned to it. So whenever this form goes to somebody, if it had evaluation assistance assigned to it, that they would get that as well. Hopefully that helps a little bit.
Well, they didn't have an answer before. At least they are pointed in a good general direction for now. The hat didn't work out, huh, George?
It keeps falling off.
While we're talking about queues, we can go ahead and talk about this one. I saw it come in. Running reports to include deleted queues. Hello, is there a way to run reports on queues, but to also include any queue that may have been deleted?
So I'll touch on that one a little bit. So inside of the UI, of course, you can go to the performance, you can do interactions, and you can filter out by the queue. Now, once you actually delete the queue, it does change that to the original GUID that was tied to that queue. And so in this example, I went ahead and just quickly took a queue and deleted it. So you can see that that changed to a GUID. However, if I go into the actual timeline of that interaction, it does show the original queue name. And then you can also use the APIs to be able to query that original queue based on the ID and or name. You can do a search there. But inside of the UI under performance, unfortunately, there's not a way to just filter out by the old name or that queue ID. But what you do have the ability to with the APIs is you can actually set up an analytics query. Of course, this can take some time. Stump the Experts, I wasn't kind of prepared to put a demo together, but just wanted to show you that if you do go to the developer center, you can go in here and there are tools in here, such as the ability to, search for users, groups, things like that. And then we have something called Analytics Query Builder. So you can go through here and choose, conversation details, conversation aggregates, which is probably where you would want to go there, and then be able to search based on that ID that you had. So you can search all your conversations and find out which calls had that queue ID a part of it, and then be able to take that out into your own report. So that would be my recommendation.
Perfect. Thanks, Patrick. All right. I know George has to hop off here in just a few minutes. So these next two questions, I'm hoping to get relatively quick answers out of you guys. But long story short, this person is wondering, is there a way we can update the YAML and import it? They make a note here. Currently, the intent slot only accepts I3 bot flows.
There is actually a utility that's built in that somebody could use to actually export. I mean, you could go into Architect, you can export a flow into YAML format, and then in the Developer Center, just go in there and search for Archie. Archie is a utility that we built that allows you to then re-import those Architect YAML files back into Genesys Cloud. So you download the YAML file, you make the changes in there. It's got a quick start for developers in here that talks about how you set it up. And then you can either write the flows directly using YAML, so just walks you through creating a flow from scratch, or you could download a flow, like I said, and then you can make your changes in that YAML file and then use Archie to put that file back up into the cloud. So you'd have your changes up there on that flow. Pretty easy to set up. You do need to set up an environment. In my own machine, I run Windows, but I have Windows subsystem for Linux installed. I use that on my desktop. If you have a Mac, you can just do the coding straight in Mac, in the terminal or whatever, set up Archie there and be able to use Archie from the command line there in your terminal, that type of thing.
This question came in from a new member, Kelly. Kelly, welcome to the community. Kelly wanted to know about obtaining information from Audit Viewer. Kelly writes, we use multiple queues and are frequently activating and deactivating agents from the queues. When using Audit Viewer to look at the activations and deactivations for our queues, it shows the user that made the changes. However, I cannot find the agents that were changed in Audit Viewer. Expanding the details only provides me with the following. It's a queue member number. Does anyone know how to take this information to determine what agent was updated, or know of another way I might be able to obtain this information? Any advice for Kelly?
So as you said, I went ahead and did an example here. Here's a queue. I went ahead and added a member to that. And just like you said, when I filter down on the contact center, you can do the entity type, which of course would be the queue. And when I click on that, as you said, here's the queue ID, there's the changes that were made, and then it indicates a queue member added, right? If you need additional information there, what you can actually do is in our API Explorer, and using our APIs, you can filter down by the category over here to audit. So that way it limits, everything that you're seeing there. And we have one called audits query. It allows you to execute and query those interactions. You can specify the interval time, what the service name is. In this situation, it would be contact center. This is where you can go in and add that filter, which was, as we said, entity type. And you can do queue. And then you can go ahead and set up your sorting method, all of that. Now, what ends up happening when you run this query is it will return in the response a transaction ID. And then what you can do is you can call this API using that transaction ID to be able to get a status. It looks like I may have ran this recently. So you can see I've got one in there. If I did execute this, it would give me back my status, telling me if it's complete or in progress. And then once it is complete, this is where you can go through and do the get results. And this is where you'll put in the transaction ID. You can expand to add, user information onto that, the page size. And then the cursor is actually, when you pull down that transaction query, when you pull down that audit query with that transaction ID, it'll tell you at the top if there's going to be multiple pages that you need to be able to pull down because of maybe how big it is. So that's where you can specify that cursor to be able to pull down multiple. But on the first page, it's not required. And then once you do have that information, it'll give you the JSON for that audit, and you'll be able to see more detail in there, such as the user IDs of who was added.
All right. Patrick, George, great seeing you all. Good news, the 2023 season of the Q&A show just started. So that means I'll be trying to connect with you guys in about a month to answer some more questions from our fine community members. Thank you all so much for your help today. Really appreciate it.
Good seeing you, Matt.
So much. I'll try to get a hat for our next one.
Later, guys. Thank you. All right, everyone. That concludes this month's episode 49 in the books. Next episode is going to be the big 5-0. Naturally. Or 55, 5-0. We're going to go with 5-0. For the 50th episode, I'm not sure exactly what we'll do. A couple of ideas have been floated by me, but this is a show that we do for you all. So if you have an idea of what we should do for our big 50th episode, feel free to email us. The episode is qashow@genesys.com. That's our email. You can find me in the community. However you want to get in touch with me, I'm sure we can do it. Also, drop a link on YouTube. Why not? We try to do our best to keep an eye on that, even though we can't answer a lot of technical questions there. Again, thank you all so much for joining us for this episode. Hope you had fun. Hope you learned something. More importantly, I hope you join us for the next one.
Thanks for tuning in for this week's episode. We hope it was helpful and maybe a little bit entertaining. Each week, our host and experts review community discussions and debate what content to discuss, so your voice matters. Did we miss something? Do you have a question for the show? Let us know. Join the conversation at the Genesys online community. As a Genesys customer or partner, you can create an account. Just click the sign-in button found on most pages and follow the necessary instructions to create an account. Also, feel free to email us at qashow@genesys.com. We'd love to hear from you. If this is your first episode, welcome. You can view our entire archives. Go to the Helpful Links panel found on most community pages and find the QA Show archive that interests you.
Also, check out the community's prize wall for current contests and previous winners.
We appreciate your support of the show and the community. Cheers!